Today on Locked On Red Wings, trade rumors are swirling. Do Rasmus Andersson or Dougie Hamilton make sense for the Red Wings?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Scotty, there have been trade rumors circulating in the NHL for about a week, maybe even longer than that. But with the compacted schedule that the Red Wings have had and the way that this podcast does its business, right? 5 30-minute episodes a week. We haven't had an opportunity to really talk about it because the Red Wings haven't had an off day for us to talk about it. And now we finally have a chance with 2 days between the Red Wings' 3-0 loss against Boston and their home game against the Sharks on Friday to discuss the two that are at the forefront of conversation in the NHL, one of which the Red Wings have been, at least from people on social media, I mean, Elliot Friedman's talked about it as well, the Red Wings have been involved in, to some degree, in Rasmus Andersson, at least reportedly. The other one is Dougie Hamilton. And Scotty, I guess it's really, which of these two defensemen do you want to start with? And then which of the two defensemen do you think would be a fit with Detroit?
Well, I mean, I'm borderline, like, to the point where Brian Fisher would be a fit on the blue line at this point. So I'm not there yet. You gotta impress me a little bit more. But like they need defensemen very badly, and so I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a beggars can't be choosers situation where it's like how nitpicky am I going to be with which defenseman they bring in? I think most would be an upgrade on the second pair or third pair at this point. But if I'm choosing between these two, I'm taking Dougie Hamilton, who's had we can start there. He's had he's had a weird year. I know that you have some opinions about Andersson too, so we can save him for the second half. But Dougie Hamilton, we were talking about it for a while before we hit record, and then we realized we probably should just hit record and have the same conversation on air. But like, it's a really unique season in the sense that this is a guy that has a pretty long history of being a very good offensive driving defenseman. And this year, the offensive numbers are not as good. However, the defensive numbers have been pretty solid. And I know that you have a lot of the stats in terms of deployment and shot rate and whatever. But it's interesting. It's interesting. And I think that I would obviously be in favor of bringing in Dougie Hamilton. The contract is also a unique part of that because he's not a rental, and he's not even a 1.5-year rental. He's a 2.5-year rental. You get him for the rest of this season and then 2 more years. However, he's also in his early 30s at this point. So a lot of give and take to go around, but I think that he would provide a stabilizing presence on the second pair this year. And then even if there is a decline going forward, then you have like a third pair offensive defenseman. Again, like he's been good defensively this year. Like it's a weird conversation, I think. But I would be honestly, I would throw a parade. Like I would be very in favor of them bringing in Dougie Hamilton. The problem is, so are probably 9 or 10 other teams.
Yeah, and I know the Devils have been trying to move Dougie Hamilton. The reports back to last summer where he used his 10-team no-trade clause, no movement clause, to deny a trade to the San Jose Sharks. He and his agent, J.P. Barry, have made it known that if they go to a good team, he's more than willing to waive it. And so he was healthy scratched earlier in the week for Kovacevic, which his PR team, right, his agent said that that's because of the trade situation, basically, not because of play. I don't know the situation. I'm not there, but it seems like the marriage between those two teams is coming to an end. How fast, I don't know, because as you said, Scotty, there is still 2.5 years left on his deal that pays him $9 million per season.
Not nothing, man.
It's not nothing, and he's 32 years old. He is a right shot defenseman, which is always valuable. He's 6'6" and 230 pounds. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of things to his game that I really like, and this Red Wings depth is very bad. And Detroit is one of the few teams, Scotty, that can take on $9 million in cap. The Red Wings have like $23 million in available cap space. And obviously, they have to pay Simon Edvinsson at the end of this season, and Marco Kasper is going to need a new deal, although he's trending towards bridge deal at this rate with how he's performing this season. But after that, like, you're kind of set for a little while in who you have to pay. You're
also getting
Alex
people off the books in each of the next 2 seasons.
Correct.
As well. I mean,
that's not even considering the fact that Sherrod will be likely gone at the end of the season.
Top is what next year? Like
Cop's next year.
And would $9 million make him the highest paid player on the team?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I don't care about that.
Yeah,
with the cap
I
rising,
don't either.
I don't care
the salary cap goes up. I'm not saying that I don't care at all about that. I was just pointing it out. I'm completely lockstep with you with the amount of salary cap space they do have, and the fact that they will be in kind of a nice little window of. They should have a decent amount of cap space over the next like 2 or 3 seasons with the rolling, salary situation they have currently on their roster. So I don't care really about the contract at all. And even on top of that, I mean, there is some reports and rumors out there that like there are some teams that are saying we'll take Dougie if if New Jersey eats X amount of dollars. And I mean, if you can even shave a couple million off of it, then like more power to you. But like the Wings can do it regardless.
The Red Wings' current cap space is $28 million. Their projected space, however, is $13.56. Both of those are right now, as we discussed, the most in the NHL.
Yeah, that's a lot.
They have the space for these players if they decide to chew it. And like, yes, it's $9 million. It's a lot. But with the rising cap, that's not going to be as painful in a year or two, and they still have the space to do it.
He's only going to have a year left as well.
Taking on the full $9 million, Scotty, like, is going to help suppress the amount of money, the amount of assets you have to give in return for Dougie Hamilton. If you take on all $9 million, you might not have to give up a top, a top prospect. Not that I even know he is commanding that on the market right now because of the fact that everyone knows the marriage is broken and both sides want out.
No, but
which
that's
is going to,
of
course,
point.
hurt his value.
If everybody else has to say, hey, like we got to do some like cap, gymnastics here, and you have to eat X amount of dollars, and the Wings can just come in and be like, hey, it's not a super favorable contract, but like we'll take all of it if you give them to us for a docked price. That matters. Like that is absolutely something that matters to New Jersey, again, especially with 2.5 years left on the deal. But that's also not long enough where it's going to like, oh, you're overpaying Dougie Hamilton. It's not like a crippling long-term, 7 years left or something like that. Like it's 2 years after this one. So I don't know. I really think that this is a situation where the Wings, and we've said this a million times over the last 2 calendar years, but like this is a situation where they kind of need to be aggressive, even if it's not with Dougie specifically. They need to be aggressive and go out and get a legitimate top 4 defenseman.
Well, and here's the thing too, is like one of the criticisms of Dougie Hamilton this offseason, or this season rather, has been his play. People are saying that hasn't been good, and it depends on what your definition of good is. Now, and I preface this, I don't watch Devils games. All I can do is look at the numbers, so people who watch the Devils game can actually tell me why they're saying he's been bad. All I see is he's been good differently. He's been asked to play a different role this season than he has in years past, where in the past, he's been a little bit more of an offensive-oriented defenseman, usually in the point range of like the mid-30s to 40s, but he's hit as high as 74 points in his career when he was 29 years old. Now, he's on the backside of his career, so obviously there's going to be a little bit of a degradation of his play each year. You would expect. Some guys' primes last longer, though. But even if he gives you 35 to 40 points, he's going to be a tremendous upgrade instantly on what the Red Wings have right now for a team that's trying to make a push.
He is instantly the 3rd best defenseman on the team. It is not even a debate or an argument. He is And again, like $9 million for a third best defenseman. He's the most expensive contract. Not like the best thing in the world, but you have the space to do it. And it's, again, I'm just repeating myself, but like it's not a super long-term thing. They might even shave some money off. I really think that the Wings could make it work.
Well, and this is the reason, situations like this are the reason why you sign guys like Edvinsson, Seider, Raymond to those long-term extensions when they're young, because it saves you on cap space later when those bridge deals would have expired and you have to sign them to more money. So the Red Wings have more money now because they locked up their core pieces at reasonable price to maybe even overspend on it, not overspend in terms of the trade, but in paying Dougie Hamilton his $9 million. So... And I said he was good. He's been good differently by the numbers, and a lot of people are wondering what I mean by that. I mentioned that historically his offense has been good. That has not been good this season. His offense this season in 41 games, he's only got 12 points, 5 goals, 7 assists. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration with Dougie Hamilton this year has come from.
He's on pace for career lows in a lot of offensive categories.
But on the flip side, his defensive game has been great. He's been fantastic defensively, at least, again, by the numbers. According to Evolving Hockey, he's a 90% percentile defensively, so top 10% defensively in the NHL right now. His offense is ranking just 50 for an overall of 62. If you do that to a 3-year sample size, those numbers flip. Instead of a 50-90 offense-defense rating, it's an 88-29 offense-defense rating. So that's where I think the frustration comes from. Is this year he's been asked to play a little bit of a different role, and he's playing more defensively minded. But when you look at Rasmus Andersson, we'll get to him in a minute. When you look at Dougie Hamilton in comparison to the other players on the Devils, Dougie Hamilton, when he's on the ice, has an expected goal share of 54%. When he's off the ice, the Devils have an expected goal share of 45%. The Devils are better with him on the ice. It's just that he's been asked to play a different role. And he gets tough competition. He gets pretty even deployments in terms of offensive zone and defensive zone. He is an instant upgrade on the Detroit Red Wings lineup. So in segment 2, Scotty, we'll discuss where in that lineup he would fit because he is a right shot defenseman and maybe what you'd be willing to give up for him. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, me with Scotty, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored job posts put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for the show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific with what I need, real experience, not just resume buzzwords. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs help your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support this show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, man, what the heck was that?
Nothing. It actually, on the read, it actually mentions that, like, if I needed to hire somebody for the show, it actually says that on the read.
It says my name.
Oh, no, not that part.
Oh, no,
that
no, not yeah.
That was me ad-libbing.
Right, yeah.
Just, watch out. Watch yourself.
I'm locked, dude.
Even though I have literally no power to make those kind of decisions. Scotty, Dougie Hamilton, right? We talked a lot in segment 1 about why it would make sense for Detroit to go out and acquire this guy whose underlying numbers suggest he's been pretty good for the New Jersey Devils. More in a defensive role this season, where in the past he's been more of an offensive player. But he's a big boy, 2 years left on his deal. He is on the backside of his 30s, or backside of 30, rather. So you do have to keep in mind that at $9 million cap hit, it could decline a little bit year over year, but it's only 2 years left. And with the cap space the Red Wings have, it seems like that is a viable option for them to improve on their defense right now. The problem there becomes, Scotty, is where do you slot him in the lineup when your right side of your defense currently looks like Moritz Seider, Axel Sandin Pellikka, and then Travis Hamonic / Jacob Bernard-Docker?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's much of a conversation. I think he's instantly the second pair right side. I think that's kind of presumed almost at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it at length. Axel Sandin Pellikka has been struggling a lot lately. His average time on the ice each month since the season has started has gone down. So far through January, it's down to 15 minutes. They've been very specific about which times during the periods that they put him out there. They don't put him out there on the last quarter of any period right now, it seems, unless the Red Wings have a pretty substantial lead. So it gets to a point when you have the conversation, like, is it good for him to have this been happening versus going to Grand Rapids? And Albert Johansson and Jacob Bernard-Docker and JVD and Hamonic, I guess specifically in this case because they play right side as right shot D-men, haven't been very good in the third pair role either. With the acquisition of Dougie Hamilton, you immediately solve who's your second pair defenseman. You allow Dougie Hamilton to play minutes that are probably more, in deployments that are probably more applicable to how he wants to play because you already have Edvinsson and Seider, so he can get back to being the Dougie Hamilton that he wants to be, even though you can rely on him to play those defensive minutes just based on what the numbers say this season.
He's
Again,
not completely
numbers aren't
sheltered like your second pair currently is, and then you can shelter your third pair and put ASP there,
right?
Put him
or send him to Grand Rapids if you need.
You want, yeah, you could. I just think it'd be very beneficial for everybody if ASP was third pair right side. I think that's kind of like the perfect ease him into the NHL that they were probably hoping for, and then quickly realized that they don't really have anyone else to fill that void. So, I think it's just Dougie goes right side second pair, and then everybody else moves down one, and you call it a day, and you're pretty happy with that.
I 100% agree. And when it comes to cost, like, I honestly have no idea because with the $9 million that he's owed for the next 2 years,
depends on the contract.
It's weird because with the contract the way it is, and the fact that there's a 10-team no trade clause, no movement clause, and the fact that it's very out there that both teams are looking to move on from the situation, and the fact that there's very few teams that can take on that money, it really, really hinders what New Jersey can realistically get back for him. He's not Quinn Hughes, where it's just like you're giving up a bunch of firsts and top prospects. But also because of that, I have no idea what he's worth. So kind of cop out here. I don't even want to suggest something.
It's because it also the variable of how much money, if any, does New Jersey eat is a huge factor in that, right? Like if they're eating half or more of the money, the return is significantly different than if the other team is taking on all of it. So I think that's kind of the fair cop out part of that is you just have no clue. It varies so much based on how much money ends up going both ways.
Right. And then our other defenseman, unless you have anything left to add about Dougie Hamilton.
No, I want you to get on your soapbox here.
Well, I mean, I don't have really much of a soapbox, I don't feel. Rasmus Andersson's been a guy that we talked about last year at the trade deadline because there were rumors circulating he was going to go last year, and then there was the idea that he only wanted to go to Vegas, rather, and so it never happened. Nothing ever happened. He's still with Calgary. He's in the last year of his contract, paying him $4.55 million, 29 years old, right shot D again, 6'1", 203 pounds. He has a career high points of 50 back in 2022. Okay, just like Dougie, career high in 2022. But has 29 points this season through 46 games played. Another defenseman that you can immediately slot in on your second line, second pair. He's going to be an upgrade, immediately make your team better. I don't think there's any argument about that. I think the problem with Rasmus Andersson, who again can play in every situation, he's playing both top line PK and I believe power play unit 2 with the Flames. I might be mistaken on that. While playing top pair minutes with the Calgary Flames, is that he is on the final year of his contract, and a lot of teams are in on him. So his value as a rental is going to be very high. Is he worth, Scotty, paying for?
Right. And this, I'm glad that you wanted to talk about both of these guys in the same episode, because I think the comparing and contrasting of what you'd have to give up and what you would be getting in return is a fascinating one. Do you spend assets to bring in an aging Dougie Hamilton who's not producing offensively, would be the most expensive player on the team, but gives you 2.5 years left, or a profile of Anderson for a rental? You know what I mean? Like, I think that dynamic or that kind of back and forth when comparing and contrasting the two is really fascinating. I'm not even sure there's a clear answer. I think I would prefer just taking Dougie because of the salary cap space, and because if he can even be close to what he's been the last couple of years and this year, obviously again with the weird offense defense thing included in that, I would prefer a non-rental. But at the same time, I mean, if Hamilton ages super poorly, then you're just on the hook for a really bad contract the next 2 years.
Yeah, he's Rasmus Dahlin. Would love to get him.
That's my answer. Yes. Yep, we're gonna go. That was easy. There you go. Yeah. There's the full breakdown. I am in favor of that one. Yep.
Rasmus Anderson is a weird one because Calgary's not a very good hockey team, and he is generally more of an offensive defenseman, but he's playing in more difficult deployments than Moritz Seider, according to Dauber Frozen Tools. When you put all three of these teams we're talking about, Detroit, New Jersey, Calgary, you put all of their defensemen on the same plot diagram. You guys have seen it before with the quality of competition and the deployments.
Oh, if we watch this show, we've seen it before. Right. All right.
Rasmus Anderson, of the three defensemen or the two defensemen we've talked about, has had the most difficult deployments, even more so than Moritz Seider this season. The difference is he's not performing very well in that. His on-ice expected goal share is at 46 when the team as a whole, Calgary, is at 51 when he's off the ice. So he's 5% worse than his team when he's off the ice, or when he's on the ice, rather. So Rasmus Anderson is struggling on a team that's already struggling as well. Struggling to defend, at least. He's producing offense pretty well. And he's a rental, so teams are going to have to get into a bidding war for him to have him. And Detroit, kind of similar to like the Quinn Hughes situation, isn't in a situation where they can leverage a bunch of assets for a rental. If they want Rasmus Anderson, because I would be okay with getting Rasmus Anderson because he's 29 years old, he's still in his prime, and he would instantly make this team better, he would need an extension in place, which is what's been reported by Elliot Friedman as well. Like, the Red Wings don't want to do this without an extension because you don't want to give up premium assets in a bidding war for a guy who's going to leave at the end of the season on a team that's not ready to make a Stanley Cup playoff push. Like, not playoff push, Stanley Cup run, rather. Yeah. They're ready for a playoff push. So that's the only way it makes sense to me, is if there's an extension in place. But that comes with its own issue. And I'll get to that in segment 3, so stay tuned.
That's a grade A tease right there.
Professional. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Every game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on a game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bet feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Scotty, I mentioned how the Red Wings shouldn't make a trade for Rasmus Anderson or get involved in a bidding war for Rasmus Anderson and give up premium assets without a trade or an extension already in place. That's the preferred method. But the problem therein lies is if you extend Rasmus Andersson, and you would imagine it would be a pretty hefty price, both term and money-wise, are you afraid of having then Rasmus Andersson at 6, 7, 8 years potentially blocking an Axel Sandin Pellikka who is growing? Is that a concern for you?
No. I mean, there are. You can figure it out and still get him in the lineup card. Obviously, that prevents, minutes to an extent. It is never. I am never going to be upset at this team having an abundance of assets, whether it's at one position specifically or just like overall depth on the roster. That is not an issue in my eyes, and this is a conversation we've had, and we've disagreed sometimes and agreed sometimes over the years. And when it comes to when to promote certain players, or if do you sign someone to fill that void, or do you block them, whatever. I don't. Prospects are not guaranteed, and if he ends up being phenomenal, which I still think he will be a good NHL player, by the way. This is not like slander against him at all. I'm just always going to be accepting and okay with depth. That is never going to be a bad thing. Worst case scenario, a couple of years from now, you have a very controllable, tradable asset, either in Andersson again after you extend him, if that's the route you want to go, or in ASP. And that's not me saying I want to trade ASP. I'm just saying there are plenty of ways you can improve your team, and it gives you a lot more versatility with front office and general management when you have depth at a position. So that's a very winded way of saying absolutely not. I will take it, make you better this year, and figure out the future later.
Yeah, and he is definitely more of an offensive defenseman, just kind of similar to ASP. Not that they're anywhere near the same, type of player.
Yeah.
But just in terms of you expect more offense than defense out of Rasmus Andersson overall. But the thing that I brought up in segment 2 was that Rasmus Andersson has been given more difficult deployments than even Moritz Seider, at least based on the team, right? On the Calgary Flames, he's been given tougher deployments than Moritz Seider on the Detroit Red Wings, according to that chart that I showed you earlier. And I said that he's struggling in that role. Well, similar to the Dougie Hamilton situation, if you bring Rasmus Andersson in, well, his deployments get easier because you have Moritz Seider and Simon Edvinsson. And I do think to a degree, Simon Edvinsson and Moritz Seider's deployments will get easier as well, because Rasmus Andersson's an immediate upgrade on the second pair, which means that you don't have to shelter nearly as much of the bottom four as you have been now. But so I would expect Rasmus Andersson's underlying numbers to actually improve on Detroit because of the way that they're going to be able to use him as opposed to where he is in Calgary. That all being said, though, it's just when it comes to what you're giving up, it's going to come down to, is it the right price? Which is the same thing we say in every single trade hypothetical that we have. I'm at a point now, don't get me wrong, I'm not out here just trying to throw first-round picks away, because those are still valuable assets. But what good is a first-round pick in 2026 if that player is not going to be ready for 2 or 3 or 4 more years? And you said it, prospects aren't guaranteed. We know what Rasmus Andersson is.
You're also no longer terrible. They're not premier lottery picks.
Right.
I mean, if you make the playoffs, you're out of the lottery entirely.
Well, and if if the Red Wings miss the playoffs by 5 points again, it's like, okay, it's another 15th, 16th overall pick. Where if you make the playoffs, it gets even worse, so that first round pick loses even more value. I'm not out here trying to throw picks away. I would prefer Dougie Hamilton in the situation just because of the fact that he would cost less in the immediacy because of his contract. And I think you have enough cap space over the next 2 years to eat that $9 million or even 75% of that $9 million. And I think he is still a very good defenseman. And I think he's, obviously the age is the big difference here. One's 29, one's 32. So you would expect a little bit more of a degradation in play out of Dougie Hamilton. Not a ton. Like, I'm not expecting him to become
Gives a
dog water in
long-term
1
path
year.
for ASP still too, which I'm
Exactly.
a lot of people will be happy about. Yeah.
Bingo. That's the thing is like it's 2 years. It's $9 million, but it's only 2 years as opposed to 6, 7, or 8 for Rasmus Andersson. Stop. I'm just gonna 6 to 8 for Rasmus Andersson. So I just that's where my head's at.
Yeah. I think and like, your head is weird, but like I agree. I think there's so many factors. There's so many factors with both of them, obviously. I think I prefer Dougie as well. I think I'm kind of lockstep there with you, but that doesn't mean that, if they figure out a way to get Anderson, then I'm going to be like upset or think that that's a dumb decision by the Wings. I do think if it is a pure rental, I'd be a little frustrated. But I think that it gives you a lot of different possibilities going forward if you acquire him and are then able to extend him too. Yeah.
If you extend him, I can live with it because I'm also not too concerned with the blocking ASP angle because, I mean, outside of ASP, like who is your right side defensive depth long term?
Yeah.
So like even if ASP pass Rasmus Andersson on the depth chart, okay, now he's the third pair defenseman. Yeah, you'll be paying him a lot more money, but like, what's your other option right now besides then again going out into free agency to acquire a guy? If it's a rental, I'd get scared. I know there was a report out there that it was like Danielson in a first is what social media was saying. I know Elliot Friedman said that he hadn't heard that, but like that's a lot for a rental.
That for 3 months is steep,
right?
For sure.
Elliot Friedman said that he has not heard that as a offer, so he doesn't know how true that rumor was. But it would come down to I'd be okay with Anderson if it came with an extension, but it's just the bidding war for him. I think is going to be a lot given his contract situation. Where Dougie Hamilton, not a lot of teams can take on that money, and so I think you'd be able to get him a lot more affordably.
Yeah, I agree.
Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Oh, Sheldon Dries reassigned to Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
I would say if they recall somebody, it'll probably be Thursday or maybe early Friday. But they're home now, and so if everyone's healthy, they don't necessarily have to recall anybody. And with the new paper transactions rules, you can't just send him down on paper. He actually has to go to Grand Rapids and report, and I think play a game, and their next game's on Friday. So if they do recall somebody, it might not even be Sheldon Dries. But just because that happened, we're mentioning it, the Red Wings might not even call anybody up if all 12 forwards are healthy for Friday, since they're home. So if something pops up, Grand Rapids is only 2 hours away. All right. Be back with a new episode tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team.
Every day.
Every day.